Hi friends, welcome back to Intentional Motherhood. I'm your host, Kelsey, mom of 4, homeschooling and trying to just keep everyone alive. And I would like to be the first to officially welcome you to flu season. You know, that magical and mysterious time of year when suddenly all the viruses in the world are like, yes, it's our time to shine. We've been waiting for this all year long. We've been training for this moment, and now it's our time to come out strong. Let's dive into it. Before we get started, I want to remind you to check the show notes or click on the link in my bio on Instagram at creating.intentional.mothers so that you can get on the email list to be aware of all the things we have coming up. Of course, you know that the prayer-focused Bible study will be starting after this season, after the holidays in January, and you're going to want to know all about that because it's going to be a really cool opportunity. Yes, we are officially entering flu season. At least that's the way the media sells it to us, right? I have some different names for this season that we'll be discussing throughout this episode, but let's just say that there's this period of time from end of October, November to maybe February, March, when suddenly, like I said, the viruses all just get stronger and more active and suddenly just come out swinging and attack everyone that they can possibly find. Or maybe it's not the viruses that get extra strong this time of year. Maybe it's just the fact that our behavior changes so much during this time of year, and there's some actual things we can point to in our changed habits that are affecting our immunity and making us more susceptible to illness. We go from these long summer days where we're out in the sun, the vitamin D is flowing, we're probably eating more fresh fruit, there's lots of movement, to, of course, colder weather, shorter days, almost zero sun exposure, and a daily diet that looks a lot like Halloween candy into pie season, straight through Christmas treats, hot chocolate, gingerbread, all of the goodies. And by January, most of us are running on caffeine and chocolate and stress and leftover cookies. And we wonder why we're all getting sick. It's not that there's some new flu monster that suddenly emerges every October. It's that our immune systems are doing exactly what it is that we've trained them to do, which is to respond to chronic stress, lack of sleep, less sunlight, and way too much processed junk. Then just add in a little flu shot, which of course we're told is necessary every season. That just preps our body to be really susceptible to the strongest viruses that might be going around. And we have a recipe for disaster, honestly. And when it comes to our children, they go from playing outside barefoot all summer to sitting in classrooms for hours, breathing recirculated air under fluorescent lights, and then our nervous systems are just shot from the crazy holiday schedules, especially moms. Anyone else? We're burning the candle at both ends trying to make this time of year so magical, and by December, we're all coughing. But the funny thing is that if you zoom out and look at this pattern, our flu season lines up almost perfectly with the time of year when we stop getting sunlight to produce vitamin D, which, by the way, is one of the most important nutrients for immune health. It's not even really a vitamin, it's actually a hormone that tells your immune system how to function. And guess what? Almost everyone is deficient in it during the winter, which makes sense, right? The days get shorter, the nights get longer, it's colder, so it's just harder to get outside. And we're going to talk about some ideas about how to do more outside time, even in the winter, even in the snow. I live in Utah, and so I understand that winters are tough, but I also understand that it's necessary to keep exposure to sunlight and to allow our bodies to adjust and adapt to changes in weather. That's one thing I think our bodies have lost the ability to do, is when we're sitting in climate controlled conditions from house to car to stores all the time, our bodies forget how to adapt. And one thing that I think is so good for us is being able to learn how to get used to being outside in all types of weather. I love that Danish phrase that says there is no bad weather, there's only bad clothing for the weather. I very much subscribe to that. But getting back to flu season, is it possible that we maybe need to stop calling it flu season and start calling it what it really is, which is the season when our unhealthy modern lifestyle just catches up with everyone? So this time of year, when everyone starts talking about germs and shots and outbreaks, I want you to just smile and say, you know what? We're focusing on getting our vitamin D. We're sticking to a healthy sleep pattern. And we're actually going to create some traditions in our family that don't revolve around sugary treats. Because when your body can get what it really needs, which are the nutrients, the rest, and the peace, it can continue to do what it's designed to do and what it's doing the rest of the year, which is building a healthy immunity and fighting off the germs that are all around us all the time. So let's talk about sugar season. For our immune system, this time of year is chaos. Sugar actually suppresses immune function for hours after we eat it. So if your family is like mine, snacking on leftover Halloween candy for weeks on end, all day long, our immune system is constantly running below its baseline function. And of course, this doesn't mean that we can never enjoy treats, but it means we might want to be a little more mindful and be aware that every choice adds up. And I am totally guilty of this. As I record this, my children, like I said, are snacking on their Halloween candy. And I'm looking for ways to balance having less shame and guilt and restrictions around sugar, but also having healthy alternatives and healthy habits and rituals that our family goes to first, rather than just always turning to treats for building traditions. As much as I can, I encourage my children to fill our bodies with something that helps us build muscle and stay full first, and then we can have a treat after that. But we typically like to add protein and fruit and vegetables before we do any treats. And I try to frame it in a way that teaches them balance and fueling our body for what we want our body to do, rather than just strictly restriction from the treats and the sugar and the candy. And then, of course, there's the lack of sunlight season. So as I mentioned, vitamin D is such a crucial nutrient for us. And during the summer, we naturally get sunlight exposure because we can wear shorts and short sleeves. So our skin is absorbing a lot of that sunlight, and our bodies convert it into vitamin D, which supports everything from mood to immunity. But when fall and winter roll around and we're indoor more, we're covered up, we're missing that daily sunlight. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to so many concerns like depressed mood, that seasonal affect disorder, respiratory infections. And honestly, this is one of the simplest things we can address. We can just get outside daily, even if it's only for 10 to 20 minutes. I read somewhere, and I can't remember exactly where at the moment, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess, that our face and our hands absorb a lot of vitamin D. So I will even try, if we're not going to be playing in the snow, I'll just encourage my kids to just have their hands out, and if it's not too cold, to keep a hat off so that they can have their face and their hands exposed to the sun for as long as we can if it's really cold out. And I know it can be hard to get outside when the time changes and it's getting dark really early in the evening, but getting outside during those morning hours is really good for the circadian rhythm as well, and can actually help improve sleep. So getting at least 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight exposure every day is something that you can do differently that might help this season go a little bit better for you. So what are some things that we can do differently? Rather than dreading this flu season, we can understand what contributes to this, and let's actually think about this as a time to increase nourishment, a time to cook warm, real, healthy foods like soups and stews and broths that are comforting, and maybe can even build some traditions around them the way we typically build traditions around treats and cookies and baked goods. Maybe we can incorporate some new traditions into the family that revolve around healthy, nourishing foods. This is a great time of year to get into a really great rest and exercise routine. There's so much research on how hibernation and following the seasonal rhythms is good for our bodies. So take this time as it gets dark earlier to allow yourself to sleep a little bit more. Follow your body's natural response to the sunlight and go to bed an hour earlier because it's getting dark so much earlier. You and your kids will all benefit from it. And of course, find ways to continue spending time outside in nature, even when it's cold. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I think a lot of moms struggle with this. And I totally get it because it can be infuriating to watch your kids take 45 minutes to get bundled up only to stay outside for 5 minutes in the snow. And I get that. But I'm going to give you lots of ideas about how to stay outside, get outside, keep getting outside, even when it's cold and snowy. But for moms, I encourage you to find ways to bundle up and go for walks in the cold, winter, snowy air. It's one of my favorite times of year to do that because there's something extra refreshing about that fresh, cold air in your lungs and in your face. So I encourage you to don't be afraid of that, but actually to embrace it and lean into it. Of course, it would be beneficial this time of year to cut back on sugar where you can. Not in a guilty way or in a restriction way, but just have an awareness that you're going to be encountering, even just in the social realm, many opportunities for sweet treats and giving of goodies, and all of that is great and wonderful, but maybe have a plan for how you want to manage that with yourself and for your children so that you're not just getting sucked into this habit of consuming goodies and treats all the time without the awareness of what effect it's having on you. I really encourage you to find ways to support your kids' bodies with sunlight and nutrients and increased rest. We can actually align with the rhythms of nature rather than fighting it. And when we do that, there's something really natural in that and even spiritual, I would say, because these darker months don't have to just be a punishment. They can actually be an invitation to slow down, to have cozy time as a family, to nourish your family. Like I was saying before, even creation itself has times of rest and hibernation. Trees shed their leaves and go to sleep. The earth quiets down for a moment of rest so that new life can grow later. And we can model that and lean into that with our families as well. One of my favorite scriptures says that all things testify of Christ. And I love talking about this through the seasons as we talk about that Christ died, and just like Christ died, the world dies. Everything that we see dies and goes to sleep and is buried under snow. And then the time comes for spring, the Easter season comes, so that new life can grow again, and it blooms and it flourishes. And then there's a time of slowing down, of falling, of resting, of going back into the sleeping, buried season. So we can even use this winter season as an opportunity of entering into our own season of rest and peace and quietness while still focusing on that nourishment. So maybe this year, instead of calling it flu season, we can start using language like a season of rest, a season of nourishment, a season for family time, the holiday season where we're focused on Christ. Let's eat well, get more rest, find ways to get outside into the sunlight, and remind our kids that God created this world with its seasons and even our bodies with incredible wisdom. And maybe this flu season won't be as bad as we all expect it to be. Thanks for listening, friends. I would love for you to rate or review the show, share it with a mom friend. Let me know how your family is embracing this winter season. Tag me or send me a message on Instagram at creating.intentional.mothers. I love hearing from you guys. And I'll see you next time on Intentional Motherhood.